Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really do appreciate it. Hope you'll come back often. Hope you'll tell your friends about our shows. Before we start the show, I want to introduce Father Ron Walters for the show's prayer. Father Walters.
Almighty God, just as our models imitate the beauty of your creation, may we imitate your kindness and generosity to us in our relationship with others. Bless us now and always. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father. We really do appreciate your help. And now I want to run the video for Dennis Brennan and his company, Brennan's Model Railroading. They are the show sponsor.
For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products for the O-scale market. Our flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. Its prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, we've developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Additionally, we offer craftsman kits that anyone can build with complete photographically illustrated instructions that assume you've never done this before. The Sonky Wenky Coffee Company is the latest and the fourth kit to be added to our ongoing and highly popular limited edition Ellison Tribute series. These kits take Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level with Dennis' spin. The idea being that if Frank were alive today, this is how we would build these models using modern methods and materials. Use the QR code to visit our website.
I want to thank Dennis so much for being the sponsor for our show. It means an awful lot to us. And now I want to ask Bob Davidson to talk to us about our scholarship program in a few minutes. Bob?
Thank you, Jim. Things are in full swing. Happy to report that we've already begun getting inquiries from applicants. And again, you can help us out by spreading the word about the scholarship. I know that this time of year there are a lot of local shows as well as the major shows. But if you do have a meeting of your division or local club, or if there's a local show at a firehouse or something like that in your area, please do what you can to talk up the scholarship. And if you would like, I will put my email in the chat. And if you drop me a line, I'll be happy to send you a PDF of a flyer that you can use to maybe print out a few of them and leave them at the show and help us get the word out that we're looking for applicants and donors right now. We'll have presence in Springfield for the Amherst show, and we're all set with thanks to Bernie Kritzer. We'll be at the next Timonium show, thanks to Greg Cassidy. And we also have a banner out on the West Coast, and Phil is helping us get to a few shows out there. So please spread the word. Now's the time. Like I say, we're looking for applicants, and we're beginning our fundraising for next year's scholarship. Again, we'll be offering 3 $2,000 scholarships for the 24-25 academic year. So do what you can to help us out. We do appreciate it. And back to you, Jim.
Thanks so much, Bob. And let me emphasize two things. The final deadline this year for your scholarship application is July the 1st. And we will make the award in August. right after August the 1st. Whatever the first show is, I think after that date is probably when we'll do the announcement. So you can send your applications in anytime, and you can find on our website where to send those applications. And we encourage you to do it because the prizes are significant. $2,000 is a significant award for a scholarship, and we wish you the best of luck if you do apply. Also want to introduce now Martin Breckbilt, MMR, who is the editor of our new newsletter that we do once a month. And if you're a subscriber to our website, you get it automatically. Or if you're a subscriber to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to find a link by watching our shows on YouTube to be able to get a copy of it. So, Martin, thanks so much for doing it, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jim. Not a lot to say actually on it. It's coming along. Right now, it's about 20 pages, except for two of those pages are empty. So that's where, if you're thinking about writing an article, that's where your article goes. So get that to me by the 24th, and it'll be in the newsletter for February. That's about all I have. It's much of the same. It's updates of all the schedules as best we can make them accurate for you. Going forward, everything's a moving target in life, so the schedules are as close to reality as possible, though reality does tend to shift in this world on a daily basis. So send your article in, and like I said, I've got two pages empty right now. I'm holding for you. So get writing fast. You got a week.
Not bad to have 20 pages with no advertising in it. I think that's pretty good.
Well, okay, so we do have a page that has three train show advertisements. Strictly speaking, we have something, but it's immediately relevant.
Well, but we don't charge for them. I mean, it's free. If you want your train show advertised, let Martin know.
Yeah. We don't charge for it, and we don't pay them either. So,
yep. Martin, thanks so much.
Yep.
All right, so now let's start the show. And the first segment that I'd like to do tonight is N-Scale Modeling. And this is sponsored by National Capital Trains. And if we could run that video, please.
National Capital Trains is the largest supplier of N-scale modeling products in the state of Virginia. We have been in business since 1989. We carry a full line of modeling products, specializing in N and HO-N3 scales. We carry a large selection of competitively priced high-quality N-scale products from Atlas, Bachmann, Digitrax, Intermountain, Cato, Microtrains, NCE, Pico, Rapido, Soundtracks, as well as Brass. For foreign railroad train aficionados, we offer a wide selection of Japanese and European prototype trains. We are located 20 miles from Washington, D.C. in Springfield, Virginia. We are a short 7-minute drive off Interstate 95. Stop in and see us for the best in N-scale. We also have online ordering on our website, including great prices and expert advice. Call us for your N-scale modeling needs and advice. Use the QR code to visit our website. We look forward to serving you.
And Clem Harris is the host for the N-Scale segment. And we have a video that Clem sent us that we want to play for you this evening because he wasn't able to be here in person. But hopefully the next month he will be, and be able to talk to him about his N-Scale journey, because he's really quite a modeler. So if we could run that video, please.
Hi guys, my name is Clem Harris. I wanted to formally introduce myself now that you've seen my interview with Craig Martin. I kind of got the horse ahead of the cart with my project in N scale here. A little bit about me. I've been a career railroader for pretty much my entire adult life. If it's run on rails, I've had a chance to tinker with it or play with it, anything from steam to a little bit of freight and commuter and passenger service. I've really enjoyed the one-to-one aspect. Ever since I was a smaller kid, I always wanted to play trains. And I remember seeing early on some of the various railroads around the country, as I was born and raised in Colorado. And when I was real young, we moved to Ohio to be closer to my dad's family. And I remember seeing Norfolk and Western, not Norfolk and Southern, but Norfolk and Western stuff in Ohio. And that always fascinated me. You got to see a little bit of my interview questions that I asked Craig during my segment here over the last couple of months. And I was going to basically run through and do the same questions for myself so you can get a better idea of who I am and what I'm about in the hobby. One of the questions that I had asked Craig in my interview with him is what got him into trains. For me personally, I jokingly tell people nowadays that when God was handing out brains, I heard trains and went and ran and got in the wrong line. Ever since I was, like I'd mentioned earlier, ever since I was a smaller kid, I'm just a big older kid now, but ever since I was a young kid, I've always been fascinated in trains, and it was just seemed to be that lifelong calling. Some of my earliest memories of trains that I mentioned were seeing Norfolk and Western in and around Ohio, and then we would go to visit my great grandparents in northeastern New Mexico. And I remember seeing a lot of the Burlington Northern coal trains that ran across the old Colorado and Southern, Fort Worth and Denver in northeastern New Mexico. I can very vividly recall, even to this day, I can see those trains. I can smell the diesel exhaust. I can hear the rumble as they go by, even now. And I remember one of the memories that shaped being an engineer for me is always whenever the engineer would go by, he always had his arm out the window. He was always waving when they'd see us near the tracks. We spent a lot of time going back and forth between Colorado Springs and northeastern New Mexico when I was a kid. So I got to see a lot of the joint line in Colorado from Colorado Springs down into Trinidad, and then the Santa Fe over Raton Pass, and then out in northeastern New Mexico there was along the old Fort Worth and Denver, Colorado and Southern. Those are some of my earliest memories of trains, and those are some of the things that always just fascinated me. It was always really neat, the sights and the sounds, and especially what interests me, and I've tried to emulate in N scale as much as I can in my modeling, is I really enjoy the lighting aspect, the lighting, and now the sound aspect, that we have that available to us in N scale. One of the other questions I'd asked Craig was, why did he pick N scale? And for me, why I wound up picking N scale, I remember being 9-10 years old, and my cousin and I had he came up with this. It was an old Atlas River Rossi Pacific, a little 462, and a couple of cars, and we ran that thing. That thing had two speeds: either it ran or it didn't run, it was stopped, or it was full speed. There was no in between. It's not nothing as nice as what we have nowadays in N scale. I always thought the size of those were really neat. And being a kid in the late 70s and early 80s, it really having stuff like micro machines and the smaller always just kind of fascinated me a little bit more. I tried building an HO layout as I was about 11 or 12. And got a few things put together. It was a simple oval on a 4x8 sheet of plywood, like everybody starts with, and it was a lot of fun. I've actually had a dream of one of these days maybe duplicating some of those HO engines that I had as a kid and having them now in N. One of the other questions I had asked Craig is if he dabbled in other scales. And for me, I mentioned earlier, I railroad for a living. I've spent the last 27 years on the railroad in some capacity or another. So between 1-to-1 and N scale, I'll occasionally tackle a sound project for a friend in HO or another scale. But at least for what I'm doing, I stick completely with N scale. And I had asked Craig, why did he pick what he's modeling? And for me, not to go towards the political side of this discussion, but after 9/11, as I started having my own family, the tragic events of 9/11 occurred. And prior to 9/11, you could bring your wife, your kids. It was a little bit easier for them to have access to see what I do for a living. And now, as everybody knows, post 9/11, you simply can't do that anymore. And so for me, to be able to model what I see today and duplicate it and bring it home and let my son see it, who's the youngest of my 3 kids, let him see that, hey, this is some of the stuff that I see and that I encounter while I'm at work. That's the biggest motivation for why I model today. I do have a bend for passenger trains. I work on a passenger train currently as an engineer. Passenger service has always fascinated me, and I really like that post World War II era where you could possibly find a steam engine on the point, or you could possibly find the latest, shiniest new diesels. And so any kind of passenger train from World War II into about the mid 50s, before the service really started kind of started sliding on many railroads. I do absolutely enjoy modeling those trains. I'm kind of a little bit OCD. I will put blinds in windows. In my passenger cars, I'll put people in the chairs. I won't go through and necessarily paint up the interiors completely, but like for diners, I'll show like a white tablecloth in the diner to show that, hey, this is nice service. One of the craziest things I've done in N scale, and I've talked about this elsewhere, is a close friend of mine and I, Adam Pinellas, we had a long, drawn-out conversation over the course of a couple of weeks about properly modeling the color of Solex glass. And for Solex glass, for those of you that are wondering what that is, if you have ever seen any of the California Zephyr cars, they have kind of that greenish tint to them. And that greenish tint, depending on the angle and the sunlight and the color of the sky. I mean, we talked about all of this stuff to get the exact color. And in some instances, it has almost a blue hue to it. And then other times it looks green. And trying to duplicate that in any scale, let alone N scale, wound up being a worthwhile task. One of these, in one of the videos in the future, I hope to be able to show how I did that. Another question I'd ask Craig is what his least favorite part of the hobby is. And for me personally, I find that my least favorite part of the hobby is is somebody else counting my rivets. And what I mean by that is there's room for everybody in the hobby. And if you want to get just as detail oriented with any scale, you can. And I want to say that simply as I personally believe that there's room for everybody to be able to enjoy whatever they want to do in the hobby. And so sometimes you'll see, if you see a person running a train around a club layout that maybe doesn't have all prototypical cars for the era, they've got a modern diesel locomotive and they're pulling wooden refrigerator cars. The question I come back to is, are they having fun? And if they're truly having fun and enjoying the hobby, I don't want to be that guy to burst their bubble and make their experience less because I was over there nitpicking and going, oh, look, you got wooden box cars behind a modern diesel engine. You can't do that. That sucks the fun out of it for everybody. I asked Craig what my favorite part of the hobby is. And for me personally, I find that sound and lights, especially now that you have the issue lock sound available in N scale, and in many cases that's even drop in now. Being able to put sound, have like flashing ditch lights on like a modern Amtrak engine or a modern freight engine. During the pandemic, I had done a NMRA X video for demonstrating how to put lights in an N-scale P42, and that video was able to show how to get every external light on a Amtrak P42 to work. The step lights on all four corners of the locomotive, the marker lights on both ends, the headlights on both ends, and then having the ditch lights flash also. There's something to me as a railroader as I walk up, and especially the more vivid memories that I have in my time on the railroad is always walking up to a locomotive consist in the dark, and you see the step lights and you see the little walkway lights and the headlights on dim, and all of those things factor in, and that to me really builds what I'm trying to do in N scale and the direction that I try and go. I have a video I'd like to share with you, and it's an unusual video, but it's to show you a little bit of what can be pulled off in N scale. I have a video that was shot on my friend Adam Pinales' layout that he had in N scale at the time before he took it down, and it's my N scale California Zephyr in the dark. And as you watch this go by, it's that is what interests me, because you see the Mars light on the locomotive, you see the headlight as it gets a little bit closer, you see the step lights on the engines, you see the lights in the cars, and you can see a little bit of that green Solex glass that I was mentioning. And then as the rear of the train clears the scene, you can actually see the Mars light on the last car. You can see it going around. And with that, I'd like to share that video.
And I think that's the video that Clem sent us for tonight's segment. And hopefully Clem will be able to join us in person for next month's In Scale segment. I hope so, because I have some questions for him based on what he said tonight. But I really do appreciate him taking the time to want to participate on our show, and look forward to having him here in person next month. Well, now I want to turn to the Frenchman River Model Works build along of one of their ship models. That really is for me, it kind of turns into a separate industry for a lot of us on our model railroads. And Tom Farrell is going to be building both the ship model and the shed that goes with it, and see how that goes for you. So Tom, welcome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you again for having me. It's always a pleasure. And this evening we're going to do a build along of a Frenchman River Model Works lobster boat. Frenchman River is owned by James and Anna Cleveland, and they were kind enough to donate this lobster boat for me to do this build along. And this evening we're not really going to get too much completed, but what we're going to show is important. I imagine this is going to be in 3 parts, 2 parts with the lobster boat and a 3rd part with the fishing shanty. So this evening, just want to talk about resin kits in general. Resin kits really aren't necessarily about the assembly. The art or the challenge of a resin kit is in finishing and detailing them. And a resin kit has significantly more detail than a plastic injection molded styrene kit. How these things are made is a master craftsman, like I assume James built this, creates his master, then he makes a mold, and then he pours the resin in there, and you get incredible detail. You get all the grain and the wood, just very fine detail. So the thing about a resin kit, it's all about the finishing and detailing of them. And I've built one before. So the agenda this evening is we're going to review previously built kits that I found on the internet, and a couple I did myself. We're going to research some prototypes so we know what colors that we could potentially paint these. We're going to familiarize ourselves with the parts. They still are a kit. Then we're going to get into the model making. We're going to remove any flash from the resin parts. And one thing I have to say about Frenchman River Model Works, I've built 3 of their kits now, and there is virtually no flash. That's the attention to detail these guys go to. So there isn't a lot of finish work. It's really about gluing it together and painting it properly. Resin kits have a mold release so that the resin doesn't stick to the mold. We're going to show you how you remove that. Then we're going to prime the components, and then we're going to put a base color on there. So first, I want to review a couple previously built kits, not by me, but what I could find on the internet. I found this green one, basically. So the color choices are really up to you, and how you place these details and these figures. These figures aren't part of the kit, but these lobster traps are. And this is the one that's featured on the box. This is particularly well made, and it's a nice color scheme, red, white, and blue. I wanted to do a little research to see what my color choices were. And here's an up close of the deck and the cabin area. You can see the detail that's been put on here. These components all come with the kit. This buoy, this little tackle device, the steering wheel, this door, these lobster kits. This will all require assembly. There's an up close of the controls. See how, talk about how you do this next time. See the metallic look to that. We'll tell you how to do that with graphite. And then this is looking down. Mine will be a little dirtier than this. Okay. Here's the first Frenchman River Model Works boat that I built. I think I did a segment on this. And reason I show this is just to show you that another color scheme that you could apply to the lobster boat. Since these are working boats, they should look like working boats. Greg Cassidy pointed out when I originally showed this model, I had a white deck. He said, that's probably pretty untypical. So I went back and repainted that. Going forward with this lobster boat, right off the get-go, we'll have a weathered deck. Maybe even raw wood, we'll see. But anyway, this shows off the incredible detail, the block and tackle, the chains. This all came with the kit, and it comes in the lobster boat is no different. There's an up close of the weathering technique that I'll demonstrate and later in the next segment. But this weathered look is easily achievable even by a first-time modeler. It's really only a 3 or 4 step process to yield what I consider really spectacular weathered results. This was a scratch-built skiff that I made out of wood and some plastic here. Again, we're going to demonstrate weathering techniques, painting techniques. These will all be applied to the lobster boat. Again, this is not difficult to achieve. It's really simple techniques. Just highlighting. I'm focusing on this because there isn't too much to the assembly of this kit. It is all about learning the techniques to finish them like a lobster boat or a working commercial fishing boat. They all have to look beat to hell if you want a realistic look about things. So I pulled a couple photos of like prototypes off the internet to get an idea of potential color schemes. You can choose to paint your boat really any color, red, blue, green. This one has a wood, not a boat guy, wood cabin. I'm probably leaning towards going to this, a wood top, if you will. And then on the side, I'm going to have it more or less white with maybe a blue or red racing, probably a blue racing stripe on it. You can just go white with a weathered effect. This looks pretty spectacular to me as far as the look. This could be easily achievable with some base colors and some washes of acrylic. We'll demonstrate some techniques next week on that. Looks like I blew this picture up a little bit too much, but this is another way you can do it. Just it's really limited by your imagination. This one's all white on the top with a red side. This one has the water line blue, and then the side is white, and then a finished wood. I'm kind of favoring that. I was very tempted to do this, to take my boat and put it up on blocks and show a derelict. I may do this on a second kit because when I came across this photo, I thought this would be perfect for the rustic buff and old Gothic railroad. There's another section of the layout that I'm going to do this. So It's going to be at least a year away, but remember this little photo because I'm going to emulate that. There's another one that's out of the water and just weathered to hell. See all the chip paint and things. Again, we're focusing on this because the kit goes together and the main pieces in 5 minutes and the detail pieces another couple hours. So it's really about taking the time to finish the kit. So this is the box that it comes in, and it's an overview of the paints. There's right on the front of the box is an inventory of the parts as delivered. I took them out and examined everything. So basically, you've got these 3 cast resin pieces, these lobster cages, and some cast metal parts, these buoys and some deck material and that little crane. So there isn't a lot to this, but that's okay. It's a super detailed kit. It's tough to see up front. That's not a great resolution photograph, but there is incredible detail molded into this. So this was the first part. There was a little flash here. My picture seems to be out of focus. That was the only flash on the entire model. And there's a little better picture. So I just took a file and filed that away. See these nail holes that are molded in? See the wood grain that's molded in? This guy, James Cleveland, went to a great deal of trouble to get that kind of detail in his model. In contrast, a plastic injection molded model would typically, that would just be flat. Before you paint a resin kit, you have to remove the mold release. That can be easily done with an old toothbrush and just Dawn dish soap in your kitchen sink or bathroom sink, or if you have a working sink. You definitely want to do this because your paint could potentially lift if you don't. Let's take a minute here and look at that roof detail. Look at the deck detail. Look at the cabin detail. That is just incredible. Beautiful model. I primed my model with Tamiya surface primer. I've talked about this before. You don't want to use an automotive primer on this kit because you'll fill in all that fine detail. This is called a surface primer because it's a relatively light pigmented paint. It does not, most automobile primers are fillers. They are purposely mixed to fill in the very fine detail that we want to show in this particular model. So my advice is go to the trouble of buying this at Hobby Lobby or one of your hobby shops, or get yourself this surface primer. It's worth its cost. It's not exactly, I don't know what it's, $9 a can or something like that, but lasts forever, and it's definitely worth the trouble. If you don't have it, delay your priming of your kit to obtain a nice surface primer like that. And there it is, primed and dry, and you can see the detail is still there in the woodwork. A little fill in here. Imagine if this is automotive primer, that would fill all the decking in. So you can still see the nail holes. We're going to go back with alcohol washes, and it will, once we have the finished paint on there, we'll bring all these highlights out. Next, when you do paint this, by the way, you hit it in all directions. Either turn the model, or if you have the ability to go 360 degrees around the model, lightly spray it in all directions. And on this particular model, you want to spray the inside of the cabin as well, because you're going to see this. You won't see that, but you'll see this. Even that roofing, say has detail on it, the wood grain. So flip this thing over and paint that as well. Now, just as I got done telling you to be careful how you apply paint, this chalky finish is something that I've really grown to like. I used it on my first Frenchman River fishing boat. This paint is exactly what it says. It gives you a chalky finish. It's much better than even a flat. It looks weathered right out of the can. As long as you're careful and spray it lightly, particularly since you have a gray primer underneath, you don't need to put a lot of paint on there. And there you can almost not even tell the difference between this photo and the gray primer photo. But this is the white Krylon chalky finish all on it. So you can still see the detail here, see the wood grain, see the nail holes, the deck holes. So we haven't covered anything really up. So part 2 will be next Wednesday, and we're going to more or less finish the boat. These 3 pieces will be super glued onto the hull. I will have chosen some colors. Think about what colors you want to make the boat. This cover shot of the box, this is a nice color scheme itself. Don't be ashamed to just emulate what James did on his model here. It's a nice scheme. I think I'm going to go with a wooden deck color, leave the side white, and paint the bottom red. I think that's what I'm going to go with. And part 3, we will, so next week we will put the model together. We'll give us all our base colors on there. Part 3, I will weather the model and show you the fishing shack, what I did with that. So once again, if you haven't bought one of these and you want to do a build along, there is a discount available from Frenchman River Model Works. And again, this fella also carries the Tom York kits in O scale. And there's a new Tom York being released, I think within a month or so. But take a look at this website. This guy is, it's www.frenchmanriver.com. Incredible models, all in resin. Okay, any questions?
Tom, this is Jeff. It sounds like you haven't started painting yet, so let me give you some nautical suggestions. On your slide there with the 4 boats, the one on the upper left with all the varnished wood, that's somebody's pleasure boat. That's not a working lobster boat. It takes a tremendous amount of work to keep it looking that way. That wood weathers, it needs to be sanded, it needs to be varnished. I don't think you find a working lobster boat finished that way. The weathered white paint, from my experience in the Coast Guard Auxiliary and in Maine waterfront, is you're not going to see a lot of natural wood on a working boat. It takes too much work to keep it up.
Crap.
That's right.
I haven't painted it yet, so
I think I read the story on that boat, and it is a pleasure boat, and he had it built by one of the boats to build the lobster boats, and they'll do them for pleasure craft because they're very robust along the coast. So,
all right,
it's a beautiful, beautiful boat, but my goodness, all of that wood. He probably has to pay somebody to sand it and varnish it every season.
Every season.
Well, let me just go on record that I made an attempt to make something nice for the rustic. And I will go back and paint it up so it looks like the wreck that has, you know.
the one on the lower left looks like a lobster boat to me.
All right, that's what we're going ugly. Okay.
I want to be authentic.
All right, I'm doing it. Okay.
Thanks so much, Tom. We really do appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for having me. Yep.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Well, now I want to turn it over to Chris Course for our MyBuild. And we're trying to do an awful lot of MyBuild in these segments each month. So we hope that you'll help us and want to participate in these and send your photos and so forth into Chris so that he can include it in each month's segment. Before Chris starts this month's segment, I do want to run the video of our sponsor, which is Dan and Amy Dowdy's company, for both of their magazines, S-Scale Resource and O-Scale Resource. So if we could run that video and then turn it over to Chris.
Welcome to the world of scale, O and S railroading. We are your resource for all O and S scale modeling. Both our magazines are advertiser supported and free to read online, download as a PDF, or even print. All advertisers are hot linked to their website, so if you see something you like, just click. Please check out our websites for the current issues. All back issues available free for the O-Scale Resource and the S-Scale Resource magazines. And, if you are a manufacturer, distributor, or retail establishment, please contact us through our website for advertising opportunities.
Yeah, okay, I guess it's my turn.
It is your turn.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Get the share screen up here. We'll be all set. Why is this doing this? This didn't do this 2 minutes ago. Okay. All right, there we go. All right, tonight's MyBuild featuring you for January 17th, 2024. We will get started here. I'm your host, Chris Course. First up, we've got Martin. You up, Martin?
I guess so. I must be. That looks like my name on the slide.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what I sent you this time.
Looks like you've got 12 slides here.
12 slides. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is the tank car. Okay, so this is an IMP tank car, brass car that I redetailed, rebuilt, added a brake system to. And I say that because this is the car I used to put a K-brake system into back in June, July, when I did the 4 shows on brake systems and such. So this is the car that I don't think I ever saw the top side of the car. So this is what the car looks like. Go to the next one, please. Okay, you may or may not have seen this one. This is a KWR Imports brass car that I got. I got it in the raw brass and in a lot of broken solder joints, a lot of other broken things, and completely restored, rebuilt, redetailed, added the brake system too, updated a lot of detail parts, was daring enough to paint it white, and it actually came off half decently, and used a set of very old Walthers decals that actually worked, much to my amazement. I didn't even have to top coat them in any way. KWR, however, I want to point out, this car is marked made in occupied Japan. So this car is 1952 to 1948 in its age. So this car is older than most of us. And I think it's still isn't too terribly crude for despite its age. Can't say that much about the rest of us, but the car is pretty good. Next slide. Oh yeah, this is the Railcraft gondola. This was the one I used for back in June, July for installing the AB brake system underneath of it. This is a tin-plated steel and brass car that needed a bit of a rebuild, resolder, redetail, add all the missing parts, and of course the entire underbody brake system. And I put in a board-by-board decking on the interior as well, because there are a couple extra holes in the floor that I'm not quite sure why they were there, but it looks a lot better with some wood in there as opposed to holes in a metal floor. Decals were from K4 decals. Actually, really nice decals. They went on very nicely. Next, please. Oh, there's the interior. So, yeah, just lots of, I don't remember what size thickness wood it was, but stained, and then just, I have 4 or 5, maybe 6 now, bottles of polyscale paint that before I throw them entirely away, I squirt in a couple of drops or milliliters or what have you of water, swirl them around, and then I paint using Q-tips. So that's all done with Q-tips and stain and miscellaneous paints, leftovers. So even the scrap paint gets used. Next slide, please. Oh, there's the underbody of that car. So if you don't remember it from June or July, there it is again. All soldered together and whatever adhesives I used mixed together to get that all together. I think I just the brake hangers were soldered into place. The rest were all glued with goo and CA. Alrighty, let's keep going. Oh gosh, it's another one of the brake underbody cars. So this is actually a resin car. I can't remember which one it is. It's either the Displains Hobbies or it's the Ultra Scale car. That's the Displains Hobbies car. Went together actually fairly nicely for a resin car. No real difficulties. I think though parts of it were missing, and I managed to make it work nonetheless. Just added all the details, extra stuff, and the full underbody. So there might be another slide of the underbody. I don't know. I don't remember. Nope, it's just the other side of the car.
That one looks like the opposite side, maybe.
Yeah, that looks like the opposite side, which, yeah, because the brake wheel's at the other end of the car now. So there you go. It's, oh, there's the underbody. So yeah, so that was basically improvised and added in. Yeah, I remember doing this one because it was the drill the holes through the center sill, run the wires and all the brake levers and all the stuff through holes that you had to drill. So it makes it a little more challenging, but not impossible. It's just a lot of advanced planning has to go into installing the parts and making everything come together, and sliding pieces together through holes, holding one thing with holding one end with a pair of tweezers, the other end with a forceps, and applying glue with the third hand. That tends to be the way that gets put together. It's up. Oh, there's the other one. That's the one that was missing the parts, like the entire underbody. Which actually is kind of liberating. Another resin car. So it was missing all the parts, most of the instructions, and some other odds and ends, but made it come out okay. I think it's acceptable, I think is where it comes out at. Just go to the next slide. Yeah, I like actually building resin cars generally. Preferably though, a kit that's complete makes it a lot more fun, a lot more interesting, a lot less challenging, but if it's incomplete, well then it's also freeing and liberating. You can do whatever you want, make it happen. I think this one was missing the ends. So those ends are actually brass stamped ends from an all-nation gondola that I just replaced the ends. And as a result, they're really, really thin. So the rest of the resin's not that thick, but the ends are really, it's a sheet metal. It's very thin. So it looks good. It's hard to do that in resin or plastic, get it as thin as a stamped piece of brass. And there's the underbody for that one. So that was a lot easier because it's above the center sill. But that was the split K-brake system. Okay, next, and there's the interior. And yeah, it was actually a drop bottom car, but since it was missing all the parts for making that system, I left it out and just decided, oh, it's just a drop bottom car that they nailed the drop, they sealed the bottom, left the hatches in place. We'll forget about it and keep moving. So that's it. We're good.
Yep.
Super.
All righty. Awesome as usual. Thanks, Martin. Are there any questions for Martin? All right. Well, thank you, Martin. And I look forward to seeing what you can come up with for oddities for next month.
Oh, I wouldn't have anything odd.
Okay. All right. Next up, we have Kirk Butcher. You up, Kirk?
Yeah. Am I on?
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right. Looks like you've got 3 slides. Oop. What did it do? Hang on. Sorry. I'll get this fixed real quick here.
Okay. This is a structure I started to build for the South Oakland Model Railroad Club. It's currently on the layout. And when I was given this project, I wasn't sure exactly how to go about doing this, because it's a lot easier putting buildings together when all the parts are square. We got round objects on here, and I didn't have any plans for this structure. There wasn't any pictures. Nobody had any information. I was trying to build a cement silo industry for Pleasant Ridge, for the Pleasant Ridge, Michigan siding here, and it's a prototypical layout, and we're modeling from Durand to Detroit. It's 2 levels, and I was given this project, I believe, because nobody else wanted it. So the way I went about it was I didn't have any information on, and I couldn't really find a lot of information on this particular industry or industries, all the industries that are related to it. But we did have somebody took a kit. First of all, I was going to try to build a kit, but I didn't have enough room to do that. So I decided to scratch build something, and hopefully I'd have enough room. And so what I did was I took some measurements from the Walthers kit that was already put together on the layout, on another part of the layout. And I swept a few measurements, and I was able to come up with this. And the materials I used, the first thing I wanted to do was find some silos or some kind of material to use for the silos, and I chose some 2-inch PVC pipe. And one of the things I had to do was shave one side of it and cut them in 9-inch height, cut them 9-inch tall, and find a way to glue them together, because I didn't want to just butt the 2 together. I wanted to shave a side on it, and that was a little tricky. I had a table saw. I flipped the blade around backwards and laid it between the rip fence and the table saw. And this was really tricky, because the thing, it likes to bounce up and down, and it likes to turn at the same time. So you got to go with it really slow through the table saw. And I was able to shave it without gouging it too much. And then the rest was just evergreen products, trying to build the structures up top. And the ductwork that goes from one end to the other is a piece of wood. I found a piece of wood that was just the right size. And then the piping on the top is just a sprue I found. It seemed to fit it pretty close. So I had some success doing this. I thought it turned out okay. There was only I didn't get a lot of compliments from any of the club members, but I think it was because nobody had any interest in helping me build the project, build the projects. So, but there was at the time there wasn't a lot of modelers in the club at that time, and they were all working on other projects. But I kind of like it. I enjoyed doing it. I had a lot of fun building this, and I learned a little bit from doing it as well. So if anybody has any kind of questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
They've got actually a couple more slides on here if we want to go through those. There's a look at the top.
Yeah.
And then I think, yep, there's a few more.
That's the left side. Yep.
Yep. Is this HO scale?
Yes, this layout is HO scale. It's it's the South Oakland Model Railroad Club, and they're located in Hazel Park, Michigan. But if you want to go online, you can view a good portion, or probably pretty much all the layout. It's a pretty big layout. It's about 900 feet of main line. It's a 2,100 square foot building, and it's 2 levels. They have 2 helixes on the layout, and upper and lower, or one on each end. And there's an upper and lower layout or levels. And it's a prototypical layout, so you won't see anything on the layout other than maybe Grand Trunk, Western rolling stock and locomotives, and there's some Canadian National and maybe a few other local stuff on the layout, but mostly it's Grand Trunk Western, which is they're modeling the 1970s. So if anybody wants to view it online, they can look it up and view it. But like this is just one small industry. There's lots of them on the layout to view. This particular one I scratch built. It's the only one I scratch built. I did have my hand in a lot of other projects on the layout, but I was more of like a backdrop here, or track work there, and I built a few kits for the layout. But like this particular one, I wanted you guys to view it because it's the only one I scratch built.
Yeah, it came out fantastic. I would not have thought that it was scratch built.
I wouldn't have either. I think it looks great.
Yeah.
I did use a lot of paint on the silos. For some reason, the PVC pipe, maybe I should have sanded it first or something, because it didn't, you put 1-2 coats on, it's never enough. I ended up putting 3 coats of paint on it just to get it to look good. And so, I mean, maybe next time I'll try priming it first. I don't know. But it was fun. I had a lot of fun with it.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for sharing, Kirk. Are there any questions for Kirk before we move on? All righty. Well, thank you very much, Kirk. And let's see. Next up, we've got Greg Cassidy. You up, Greg?
Okay. Yes, I am unmuted.
All right. There we go. All right. Looks like you've got 6 slides tonight.
Okay. And I think I've figured out your pattern. You go alphabetical, don't you?
Yes, indeed. By last name. That's why Martin's always first.
This project was a real quick one. I'm working towards an AP, and I needed to scratch build a couple more structures. And so I decided to do one. It was actually based on something that I saw on this show. And I said, okay, I can only use 10% manufactured parts. So I got 3 windows and a door from Tichy. And I said, everything else I'm going to build. So there's my 3 windows, a door out of that pack, and everything else is wood or paper or something. So that's where I started. Next slide. And the first thing I built were the front doors. And I just took some scribe siding, cut it at an angle, and then built a frame around it. And that made my doors. And in the lower picture, you can see the outline that I was tracing on my board and batten siding. And if it looks familiar, a couple months ago, Martin Scratch built a structure on here that had 2 angles for the roof. And I said, that looks really neat. And so I decided to model mine on that. And he didn't copyright it, so it's his loss. So I cut out my siding from the board and batten and started piecing it together. Next slide. And this is how it came out. There wasn't much else to it. I cut the holes for the windows and the door. And as I was building it, I was trying to think what it was going to be. Well, I said it looked kind of like a little freight yard type shed. And 2 of the windows I was using were already painted green from something else I was going to use them on. So I started looking for railroads that had green trim on their buildings, and Main Central fit the bill. So I made a couple of Main Central signs and some other signs to put on it. Next slide. So this shows it from this side. I don't know what they would actually store in here, but I did put a couple of vent windows on the upper part, so it could be something that needed venting. But it was real easy to put together. Most of it was in the staining and the weathering and the painting of the doors and windows and stuff. Next slide. And this looks at it from the back. The windows up top, I built the window frames and I left one of the windows open on the top so that it looked like they were mostly for vent. And obviously, this is just a shed. There's no plumbing inside this building because there's no plumbing stack vent. And if you don't have a plumbing stack vent on your building, you don't have any plumbing in your buildings. Keep that in mind. Next slide. And this is it from the last angle. Now, I don't have any place on my layout to put this, so it's just on a shelf. But the next clinic or show or wherever we have AP judging, I'll take this with me and I'll get another scratch built building judged, and that'll be one more notch that I have checked off. So that's it.
Yeah, very
Thank
simple,
you,
but it
Chris.
came out very nice.
Yeah, it was quick. It was fun. And you know, I moved on to the next one. Oh, for the smokestack there, I had just taken some plastic tubing, cut it at a 45-degree angle and glued it back together. And then I took an HO scale wheel, one of those plastic wheels, took it off, sanded the back of it flat, stuck it on the wall, stuck the tube in it, and the top is just a little piece of channel. So all counts as scratch built.
Yeah.
But that thing it comes through, I looked that up. They're actually called a thimble when the piping like that comes through a wall.
You enjoying the achievement program, Greg?
I'm doing stuff I hadn't done before, so yes, I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Are there any questions for Greg before we move on?
Well done, Greg.
Yeah, looks
Thanks,
very
Pat.
nice. I really like the signs, and they're simple yet they really add a lot to it.
And a couple of them are authentic Main Central signs, stolen off of the internet.
All righty. Any questions for Greg? All righty. Well, thanks, Greg. We look forward to seeing what you can come up with for next month, hopefully. All right. Next up, we have Phil Edholm. Yep, Phil.
If I can get myself unmuted, yes, you're ready to go.
Okay. All right. Looks like you got 6 slides tonight.
Yep. Exactly.
All right.
So This actually is an engine house. It's an IHC plastic. This is an O scale. The thing is pretty huge. I guess it's about 32, 34 inches long, something like that, almost 3 feet long. Basically, this is an area on the layout that was set up originally as a trailer modular loading area and had a crane on it. And it was very hard to reach, and you really couldn't do much with it. And we needed a place to put engines because there was a roundhouse, or excuse me, a turntable that took up far too much room and had been taken out years before. So what we did, if you notice back at the back there, if you look back behind the engine house, you see a little bit of pink foam. We cut a hole there, got rid of an earlier lift up hole to make the scenery look a lot better to the city. To the left, you'll see. And what we wanted to do is have a place where you kind of justify that these two tracks would now be engine yard tracks. So this was a build of an IHC engine house that shows up. It's designed for O gauge, which is really 3-rail. So it has a foundation that's kind of designed to go with 3-rail track. So one of the things we wanted to do is have a more stone foundation. So you kind of notice the foundation there. That's chooch rock stonework cut and put on the bottom with some acrylic, which is really kind of the big thing to building this. You just jump to the next one. So this is on the upper left. That's kind of the view. If you look, we've got this new city we built out, and there was a tree just sitting there. Unfortunately, I didn't pick it up and move it, but you can kind of see where this sits. So you kind of see the end of it. What you see on the right is the other end. The sign there, the Southern Pacific sign, is actually based on one we have on the wall that was on the engine house in Oakland. And when they tore the engine house down, we actually got the sign. So we actually got it on the wall outside of our club. So I actually took that and took the colors off of it and reproduced it into a fairly accurate sign. So go ahead and jump to the next one. And so you can kind of see that, you know, everything's been pretty well weathered and the brick's been done pretty nice. Looks pretty reasonable. Need a little bit of leveling of the ground there on the bottom. So I got last two slides. This is kind of how this is built, because it's going to be in a club where it gets moved and could potentially get damaged. The other thing was really pretty flimsy. So jump to the next one, Chris.
Sure.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I thought this is actually two views of where it is. So if you see on the view on the left, that's kind of as you walk in, and you kind of can see it there, and it's kind of, you can kind of see it peeking up above the buildings there, kind of the left of center in that picture. And then when you come over to the right, you actually can see it a lot more on that end. Then you've got a city behind. Kind of the whole idea here is you have the kind of gritty industrial city down in part of town, down in front with the railroad, and the shining city on the hill up in the background. So jump to the next slide. So the problem with this thing was when you glued it together, turned out those walls were just about as floppy as anything I'd ever seen. So I decided I had to put in some strengthening, and wanted at the bottom to throw away their foundation, put in a new foundation and strengthen it. So I came to the conclusion the right way to do that was with acrylic. So in the upper left, what that is that's 16th inch acrylic being glued in on the top and bottom of each wall, just done with epoxy. Mix some epoxy and squinch on it. What that does is levels up to those little plasters that are in between the walls, which actually came back in a little bit. And so now on the top, it actually has a wooden frame. So instead of using the plastic and gluing it together with glue, it's all done with liquid nails, and those are all liquid nailed in. So you have a support in the center for the roof and the side pieces. You got the two side roofs supported down below. And then if you kind of look at the two lower left pictures and kind of the upper right one there, the far upper right one, those are gusseted. Where you see that blue tape, that was actually tape, so it was painted, it would still be clear, so you wouldn't see it, and those are gusseted. And the intermediate wood pieces were put in place to put LEDs, because the whole thing is set up with LEDs inside. At the bottom left, you kind of see how it was extended with that acrylic to provide an acrylic lip that then you could glue that block to give the trim at the bottom of the wall. And so you jump to the next picture, which is just kind of a little bit of the interior finishing. And that was kind of, how it was put together with the LED lighting in it, and then putting the roof sections on, and kind of not putting it together the way they kind of suggested to do it as a plastic model, but kind of building on a much stronger framework. Anyway, that's it, Chris.
Okay. Yeah, it came out very, very nice.
Really good.
All right. All right. Thanks, Phil. Does anybody have any questions for Phil before we move on?
You're turning into Tom there, Phil. You got that plywood in there.
All righty. Well, thanks, Phil. Next up, we have Bernd Fanghandel.
Very
Sorry.
good. That's
I'm-
okay.
I butchered it. I'm sorry. I'll get it. I'll get it.
Keep practicing.
All right, we'll do. All right. Looks like you've got 12 slides tonight.
Well, okay. I started a diorama back about 25 years ago when I lived in a mobile home. And you see the two kits, I built the Alexander coaling station and the Timberline models water tank number 142. That was some first kits I ever start putting together. So, okay, on to the next one. This is what the diorama looks like. You got a 3/4 view here. You see the coaling tower, which isn't finished. There's the water tank, the maintenance shed there, and the sand house are actually Campbell scale. I scratch built those. I didn't use the kit. Same for the sand storage box and the 2 sand towers. On the left side is HON3, which actually is going to use to fill up the tower. And on the right-hand side, I don't think you can see it too well. It's dual gauge, both standard and HON3. One of those flat cars is scratch built. The 2 log cars are kit built. Now I don't know what the other flat car is. So okay, on to the next one. You get a closer view here of the water tower, or the square water tank. I don't know, it kind of grew on me. I've never heard of a square water tank, but I guess they're pretty popular. And then the little storage shed there, and then the picture down on the right is the beginning of a sand drying house. So all right, on to the next one. This, excuse me, this building figure has been traveling around at least over 25 years. And the only thing I broke on it was the corner up there on the left picture of the what do they call that up there? The where it goes around the corner. I broke that.
Yeah, like your landing.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks. And I repaired it there, and then I started to build the hoist house. That's where the mechanism is to winch up the buckets of coal. All right, on to the next one. I use my computer CAD program to come up with the correct angles to put on the rafters for the little shed. I drew it up and then printed it out and followed the lines to cut the rafters at the right angles. Okay, next one. Now here I am gluing it on. And on to the next one. There's a better picture. So you see on the right there, that right picture, it comes out looking pretty good. I was never too good at cutting angles on things like that. So I still haven't put the windows in. So, but okay, on to the next one. The thing had up in the top left picture, it had pulleys for the coal chute. I lost one of the pulleys, so what am I going to do? Well, I got my little lathe out, and away I went and made pulleys about the same size, but I couldn't quite come up with the slats in there like that. So I drilled holes in it. And the other 3 pictures, is it? Yeah, 3 pictures. Those are for the coal chute. Again, I used my CAD program, printed it out, cut out the paper, sprayed it with adhesive, and glued it onto, I think it was 10,000 stick brass. All right, next one. And this is what the coal chute looks like. And on the right there, well, I didn't do too good of a soldering job on that top left one there. A little file work took care of that. And then I'm trying it out to make sure it fit in there proper like. Next one. Then I added this is what actually that's a piece of phosphor bronze. This is what actually you would pull on a string, it would pull that up so the coal would come out. And there it is again, trying it out to make sure it looks okay. Okay, next one, Chris. And here it is with the pulleys mounted. And then it's got an extra chute on there. It's an extension chute. So it'll shoot the coal into the center of the tender, and the little beads are laying down to the right there, which would get put on over the pulleys to help lift up the weight of the chute there. Next one. And this is where it's setting. It's become a horizontal storage place for anything that has wheels on it. And I haven't touched it in, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years, but I thought it'd be something good to show anyway. So that's it. That's all I've got.
Yeah, it looks great. You're talking about the square water tanks. I think it's the Quincy and Torch Lake. There's a kid out there that's how I came across it. But I think originally, and actually I think somebody else, because I have a Best kit that's that way also. They use them or they use them to, particularly in the Northeast, to heat water,
right,
so that it wouldn't freeze in the wintertime.
Yeah. Okay. Questions?
Hey, Bernd, I have a question.
Yeah.
For making the chute, you designed it with your CAD, then you glued the paper onto the brass. How did you then cut out the brass?
Being it's only 10 thousandths thick, I used a pair of regular scissors, Fiskars scissors. They're very good for cutting something like that out.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
Yeah, and
nice job.
Thank you. The paint on that is the old Floquil paint that I did on the buildings, and same with the weathering. That was the first time I ever did any weathering. It's just basically using Floquil, which now I have to learn how to use new paints.
Hey, Bernd?
Yes.
Is that a Marion steam shovel in front of the cooling tower?
No. Are you talking about this last picture?
Yeah.
Who? What did you say it was?
A Marion steam shovel.
No. Let's start on the right there. That's an MDC kit, narrow gauge, 3 foot. Then that's a standard gauge flat car behind it.
What I was looking at was what's on the flat car, and it looks like a steam shovel.
No, that's a regular. That's a standard gauge. That was there was a magazine that had that, how to build that, and I think it was a model railroader many years ago. And the boxcar on top is actually an HON3 boxcar that I never finished. See, I sort of I see shiny things and I follow those things and forget about what I was doing. So
I know the feeling.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. Any more questions for Bernd? All righty. Well, thank you, Bernd.
You're welcome.
Next, we will move on to Jeff Jordan. Yep, Jeff.
I'm here.
All righty. Looks like you've got 8 slides tonight.
Okay. I'm following up from last week's discussion about interesting plastic kits that, with a little bit of effort and alteration, make really nice models, even though they start as very simplistic plastic kits. Here's the first one. This started life as Plasticville. I think today Bachman still sells it, and was my original effort at a coaling tower for my narrow gauge railroad. I subsequently replaced it with the advanced junction coaling unit when I found that. But this was shortened, and every piece of the wood, even though it's plastic, has been textured with the razor saw to put wood grain into the timbers on the bin. And then the top replaced the original Plasticville top with a kit from Mount Blue Hobbies. Made a replacement top specifically for this structure and blends in very nicely. And then there's several other details here. The stairway has been altered to move it into a more credible location than the original kit, which put it way out at the end, too close to the train. The coaling mechanism has been entirely reworked. It came with a very weak chute. And so I scratch built that chute out of evergreen styrene, added the braces, and then the door mechanism is a gem of a little detail set from Grantline. There's like a dozen parts in there with all the wheels, shafts, chains, etc., that really add a lot of detail to that assembly. And why don't we go to the next slide, please? The other thing that you can see on here is coaling towers, of course, frequently are used at night as well as during the day. And so I decided it needed some lighting. And so you can see the lamps both over the area where you activate the coal chute and up above the top of the stairs. There you go. You can see more closely there on the left. And as long as I was adding the lamp, I added electrical conduit. So you can see that from that lamp, the conduit actually goes around the side of the building and around the back. And then the photo on the right just gives you a nice close look at the Mount Blue top. And you can see that it's been pretty heavily weathered. And any coaling tower is a pretty dirty place with lots of coal dust. And so this is liberally coated with coal dust using Bragdon weathering chalks, which adhere very nicely. And so you don't have to seal it on top, and it gives it a nice gritty look. Next slide, please. You see, we got any more of the coaling tower?
Yeah, that's what that.
Okay, I'm wait. For some reason, my system is running very slowly tonight. There we go. Okay, so
Okay.
there you go. Now you can see on the right-hand side the lamps both over the area that where the chain is to activate the hatch, and then the lamp over the top of the stairs. And if you look closely, you can see the electrical conduit runs all the way around horizontally there as well. Next slide. Again, the latency is really slow tonight. There we go. Okay. On the right, there's a nice close-up, a little bit out of focus, but showing those Grantline parts. That was an evening's work to assemble all of that. There, like I said, there's like a dozen parts in that little assembly, including the two chains, the wheels, the gears, the shafts, the brackets, and so forth, and the door down at the bottom, all out of the Grantline set, and really adds, sets off the detail. The kit came with like a flat sheet and a little rod that was supposed to lever it up and down. Much more credible arrangement there. Next slide. And waiting for, there we go. Okay, this is the other kit I think I mentioned last week. This is the Lionel Rico Depot. And again, it's a very faithful model of the original structure, not to be overlooked. If I was building this today, this is probably the oldest structure on my layout. I would have distressed the plastic a bit more, but it is painted in appropriate Rio Grande Southern colors. And the kit portrays the structure early in its life when it had lots of gingerbread in the eaves and on the roof ridges. And there was a tower on the top of that gable, which apparently back in the day, telegraph lines came into that tower and down into the agent's office. And in 1934, the building had a fire, the tower was destroyed and never replaced. And so this is intentionally meant to look like post-1934. And so using the roof for the tower, I was able to fabricate a nice roof patch that fills in where the tower would have been. And then in front of the agent's bay window there, another, I think that's a grant line part, the order board, which was typical Rio Grande operating procedure, that if there were orders, they would display the red and the train had to stop and the crew had to receive their orders. If the board was white, they could run through, but I'm told that it was virtually always set at red. And then what else? You can see that I've added draperies in the agent's dwelling quarters upstairs. His wife is, spruced up the place a bit. And then downstairs, there are window shades as well. And then there's some people out front. Those are Woodland Scenics figures. The bench is temporary until I get something a little nicer in there. Right now, it's just a couple little bits of balsa, but gives you a bench out front. Next slide. I think is another photo of the depot, which is in my imaginary town of Uncompahgre. The Rio Grande Southern terminates up around Ridgeway, which is in Uncompahgre County, but there was no Uncompahgre. But I like the name. It means apparently in Ute Indian, muddy waters. And so, but that is the Rico Depot from Lionel, completely reworked, every square inch of it painted, weathered. The roof has been dirtied up considerably, the siding a little bit dirtied up. Again, I could have gone further with the texturing of the wood, but Rio Grande structure ready to go right out of the Lionel box. I think that's what I got for you tonight.
A couple more.
Oh, okay.
So showing the details there.
Yep.
Of the front.
There, you can see the details in the windows. You can see the order board. And though you really can't see it in the photograph, the agent's office inside the bay window is all detailed as well. There's a desk in the bay window. I built out the walls out of evergreen styrene, and there's calendars and so forth up on the walls. And there's actually a light, though it was not on when I took this photo. But that was the most obvious interior part. And when you turn on the light, you can see the agent's office with the telephone on the desk, papers on the desk, and a bulletin board on the wall, and so forth.
Yeah, it looks like you can see the telephone in the bottom left pane.
Yep. Yeah, in the bottom left pane, there is a candlestick phone there. And then what you're seeing through the window, though it's only dimly lit, is the back wall, which has got wainscoting. So it's dark in the bottom and light on the top.
Alrighty. Yep, and here's our last photo.
I've got a question. Did you add the additional windows on the second floor?
All the windows are straight out of the kit. The only thing I did was add the window treatments, the draperies or the lace curtains, which actually are thinned white paint painted on the plastic on the inside, and the window shades, which are the typical construction paper window shades.
Okay. Thank you.
But this kit is straight out of the box, with the exception that I deleted the tower and patched the roof, added the order board, and deleted all the gingerbread, which actually was harder than you might think, because the gingerbread actually filled the gap down the center of the ridge of the roof. So rather than just throw it away, I had to flip it upside down and then glue it in to the roof so that the ridge on the top of the roof closes. But it worked quite effectively. But at the time when I realized that I couldn't just pitch the gingerbread, that I had to figure out how to fill the hole in the roof, and flipping it upside down actually worked quite effectively.
Alrighty. Alrighty. Any more questions for Jeff? Alrighty. Well, thanks for sharing, Jeff. And look forward to seeing hopefully what you can come up with for next month.
Yep,
All right, next
I've
up.
got an oddball for you already waiting.
Okay, cool. Can't wait. All right, next up we've got Mitch Doc Lovelace. You up, Mitch?
I'm here.
All right, looks like you've got 5 slides tonight.
All right. All right. So, I think it was not last week, but the week before last, Rich had spoke to me about the potential of paper buildings and cardstock buildings, which is something that I had done. As you see here, I built these. These are in no particular order either, but I did these, I would say, about 2 years ago, and they just sat dormant for about a year until about this time last year when I decided to get like really back into the hobby. And he also introduced me to Paul, who's on here, and he's been gracious enough to take some time out as soon as I get done moving to kind of do some video build alongs with me and show me his process of how he does it. Because when I mean, with working with N scale, there's a lot you can get away with making things out of paper, cardboard, cardstock, anything like that, as long as you can find the way to either make the detail or mimic the detail and the relief in the buildings. And this particular building is just part of a structure. This was the top 5 stories of a giant school building that I had made. The whole facade is nothing but a Budweiser box that was left over from my work. And I literally went in there and cut out each window by hand with a number 11 X-Acto blade. And then cut tiny strips of cardboard as the, what do you call, the window panes running across. And then on the outside facade, the gray running underneath the window is balsa. And you can just scroll along. So this was the bottom here of that structure, and I built this in 3 separate parts. In the previous picture, I built in 1 part. And then I kind of put one of those, I don't know, one of those cheap dollar store lights on the inside after I put the window glazing on, just to see what it looked like backlit. And say again, this is N scale, so cutting out those windows was not easy at all. So all the gray that you see, all the gray facade treatments, that's all balsa, various sizes and thicknesses. It's kind of safe to say this was never truly finished, but I wanted to share this just because of, you know, Rich and Paul, how they've gotten me back into the potential and the possibility of making paper buildings, and kind of to show you guys, you know, what set that spark back in my my dream of this hobby. So you can go to the next one. So here is let me see. These are basically the same, just kind of in different orders. The most difficult one of these that I built was the, I guess in this one it'd be the tallest one that has the 3 rows of bay windows, basically going from top to bottom. I had no idea how difficult it would be to make bay windows on a paper model. I really didn't. The bay windows alone here probably took me 3 to 4 times as long as any other building you see built to completion. I worked with, maybe if I make it, you know, 3 windows wide and put the 45-degree bins in it, maybe that would work. It turns out it doesn't. at least in what I was doing. So I had to literally cut 3 strips straight down, cut out all the windows, and then glue those pieces together perfectly to create the bay window effect.
Oh, wow.
And this was also back before I knew anything about weathering at all. So all I used on these were acrylic paints. So you can kind of tell by the rudimentary weathering there. And let's see if there's anything on here left to speak about really. Well, I mean, you can see on the bottom picture there on the bottom right, that's all the products I use to build these. You know, 3
Yeah,
or
it also
4.
gives a good example of your scale too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, one thing I can say, it might show up in another picture here in a second, but the staircases leading up to those walk-ups there. The first time that I made one of those, I literally just took a piece of paper and made tiny, 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 tiny folds, probably about 30 times until I acquired the height of the staircase. Until I realized that it's much easier and also looks much better to just cut tiny strips of balsa wood and stack them on top of each other. And it saved a lot of time when I figured that little trick out. But all right, you can go to the next one. All right, so the one on the left here it's one that I like, but in my opinion, it's one that had the least amount of detail on the facade. It's basically just a box with windows cut out. But I was trying different techniques at the time. Well, I mean, I still don't know a whole lot about interior lighting or lighting for that matter, but I was trying different things with cardboard going behind the glass. So I was saying, well, if I have a light colored cardboard and a dark colored cardboard, but I put the exact same light behind it, will it look like one light is out and one light is on in the window? As opposed to having, 40 different lights in the building. Can I play around with something? Can I, create a shortcut? Well, I quickly realized that that's not the case. So as you can see, the bottom looks like it is lit up like a nuclear bomb went off, and the upper floors are just still pretty much blacked out. And on the right is one building that sadly I never got to finish, but I had really high hopes for. I created each one of those little bitty balconies, which I would say each balcony is smaller in width than a quarter.
Whoa. Yeah,
And I
in the lower
created
right corner.
each. Oh yeah, at least. And I cut each one of those out, glued them in, cut all the windows out, and then came home from work one day, and my cat had basically just made it its new home, or what was left of it. So never got to finish that one, but there might be a couple more slides I can share. And sorry, I'm kind of shivering a little bit, but I'm outside right now. We had a warm front come through Memphis today. It's only 30 degrees. I woke up this morning, it was 5 degrees, and now I'm walking outside, it's 30. I said, I'll walk outside a little bit. All right, so here's another picture, just a different angle of that one on the left, and you can kind of see where I was going. I wanted all that bottom part right there that's arched, I wanted that to be all encased in glass. Or styrene, basically. But and you can see kind of the depth of it that I had and where I was going with it. I really wish I could have been able to finish that one. Because I mean, come on, when something costs basically, I don't know, $2 or $3 in product, it's fun. And then on the right, this is just showing all of them kind of together. You can see the scale of that big one that I was talking about, the school building, compared to the others. I mean, really was kind of massive. And then I don't think maybe you had seen the one on the right picture on the very bottom right. That was the first time that I had worked with using balsa for the staircase, and it's kind of hard to tell by this picture, but it worked so much better and looked so much more realistic. And I don't know if there's any more, but
That's it. You're on the last slide.
all right. Well, yeah, basically just from those guys kind of letting me know that paper models are still very relevant, and I'm looking forward to the things they're gonna show and teach me. I thought it would be fitting to go back in time a little bit and show you guys kind of what jump started my interest back in the hobby. So
Yeah, that's neat. It's you set yourself up with a learning curve, and you didn't spend a whole lot of money on it, and that's the best part of it is like the one that the cat destroyed. It's like the only thing it really cost you was time. So now you've got that
I gained a lot of
experience level. Now you can rebuild it back better.
yeah,
Not to sound
exactly.
political or anything, but
no, you're absolutely right. But yeah. So I mean, I'm not going to say that every model that I'm going to build is going to be paper cardstock. It's absolutely not. But it's just good to know that the potential and the possibility is out there. If there's something that you just want to build that you just can't find the plastic parts for, you can't find a craftsman kit, you just don't know how to kind of pull it off. These possibilities are out there, and they're absolutely like limitless, to be honest, if you know the proper procedure.
yeah, these are definitely it's something that can be used for learning tools. That's for sure, especially when they're that small. Are there
Yeah,
any
I just
questions
had
for Doc?
Yeah,
well,
I'm
Yeah,
just,
Doc,
go ahead.
do you brace the inside of your paper buildings?
When I do it with I don't know the exact dimensions, but I would say I think they're 1/8 inch balsa kind of squares. They're long. I do that. I'll brace that, and then I'll run a 45 on the angles. But really, I've only found that I need to do that on really the bigger structures. I'm not getting a whole lot of warping just because the way that I paint them before I put them together. So I do weight them down as the paint dries. So that does help a lot with the warping.
Yeah.
what kind of, I mean, you say paper, what kind is it? Like, is it cardboard? Is it Strathmore board?
Well,
What
yeah,
kind of stuff do you use?
paper might be a little bit of a jump. This was actually, like I said, I work at a bar and a restaurant, and I think that all of these, except for maybe the small red one was actually a Crown Royal box. And I believe that all the other ones were Budweiser, Bud Light boxes.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little bit thicker than maybe your typical cereal box. It's got a little bit more rigidity to it, but not a lot. But yeah. But it wouldn't have mattered either way. I mean, you can use a cereal box the exact same. The only thing is that it does, it will go through a X-Acto knife before you know it. So, got to have plenty of blades when you're cutting out 50 windows.
That's what you call true recycling.
Yeah. Speaking of that, actually, a guy just picked up all of these. I posted this also on a Facebook group, and a guy that's building a Chicago scene said he's interested in all of them. So I put them in a box and sent them to him for free in Kentucky. So hopefully I'll get some pictures of how he repurposes them and uses them, and I'll be able to share that with you guys.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd be great.
Alrighty, any more questions for Mitch? All right. Well, thanks for sharing, Mitch.
Always.
All right. Next up, we've got Ed O'Rourke. Are you up, Ed?
Yes, I am.
All righty. Looks like you got 5 slides tonight.
Okay. All right. So we got this one first. This is our division's demonstration switching layout, which was in Model Railroader. The picture that you see above it is the picture they used in Model Railroader, designed by a guy who lives out in Herkimer from here. And we take this to train shows and let the kids play with it, let them switch. And when I somewhere in one of my HO things, I'll go into a little more about how we built it. But it's a real magnet for kids and adults too. We have an NCE DCC system, power cab attached to it that we run it with. And you get people who want to come try that out and see how it works. It's been a big hit, and we'll talk about that in one of my HO sections later. This was at our train show in November. Next slide.
Yeah, what was the what's that club name? I'll put
Say
that
what?
in here. What's the name of your club?
Or the Central New York division of the Northeastern region of the National Model Railroad Association.
Okay, I'm trying to type that in, sorry.
It's just like it says up there, Central New York division of the NMRA.
Okay. All right, cool. That way we can give a little bit of credit in the news article or in the article on it.
All right. So this model was given to my friend Jim Height, who passed away this spring. And one of the old time guys on his layout, because he had a every Tuesday night session that went on for 20 some years to build the Ogdensburg and Norwood Railroad. Had built this for him and gave it to him. It was on a sheet of plywood. It was never installed on his layout. So I really liked it, and I was going to try and figure out a way to install it on the layout. I kind of had to deconstruct it to get it off the mounting that it was on. I believe it's a laser cut kit of some kind or another, but who made it or whatever is lost in the sands of time. And there was the guy who built it had a write-up about it when he gave it to Jim. I think he left town or retired someplace. The pieces that you see there on the bottom are plaster cast rock that were the foundation that I had to we took it off the foundation and had to break those off the plywood. Go to the next slide. Yeah, that's the underside of it. The sheet that you see to the left there is what it was mounted on originally. And I'm starting to put the rock work back together. The trouble was when we took it apart, we didn't number it. So it was like a puzzle. I had to take it and kind of figure out which one went where to get it to go back together. Next slide. And it was pretty beat up. It had sat around and gotten pretty beat up. So I put it back together. I weathered it some more. In particular, the roof because I didn't like they just put the paper shingles on it, but didn't do anything else with it. So that was the main thing. The next slide is just the back side of it. It's quite an intricate kit that somebody put a lot of time into, and it was interesting to put it back together. I had to rebuild some of the wood parts, particularly because they'd gotten busted up. So I'm going to find a place on my layout for it since Jim's layout is gone. I wondered if anybody had any knowledge about this thing, if anybody knew what the kit was. I've no idea, but it's obviously was laser cut because you can tell when you look at the inside, you can see that the wood is cut out that way.
Yeah, it looks like it's got some Campbell's windows in it. But that's
That
just
could be,
test.
yeah. I don't think it's a Campbell kit though. It's too
No.
too much for that. Yeah. Unless he took a bunch of stuff and put it together, I don't know. So anyway, that's I think that's it. And there, yeah.
Yes, that's the last slide.
So I'm going to find some in the layout that I am now building. I'm going to find some place to put it so that I can remember my friend Jim.
That is a really neat structure.
It is, yeah.
I've never seen a kit like that before. I really haven't. That's just it's got so much detail on it.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if maybe if the guy who built it modified some of that. I really don't know. The original work of it is lost to the ether somewhere, you know.
He did a nice job.
Oh, there's there's another side of it. Yeah.
Kind of wondering if maybe that's, well, no, I was going to say, I wonder if it's a bunch of kits that got bashed together, but
Doesn't look like it though. I mean, that obviously was the way that was supposed to go.
Yeah, looking at this one, you can see the laser cut in there.
Yeah, yeah. You know, there's no doubt about the fact that it's not scratch built. It was laser cut.
Yeah. All righty. Well, thanks for sharing, Ed. Does anybody have any questions for Ed?
It's not a question, but Ed, if you're on Facebook, putting up a picture like this and then a picture of the underside in the Craftsman courtyard, I'll bet somebody would be able to ID that kit.
That's probably true. I bet somebody could do that. I'll work on that. Yeah, that's good. That's good thought. Thank you. Yeah.
That thing looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building.
Yeah. All righty. Any questions for Ed? All righty. Well, thanks, Ed. Hopefully you can come up with something for the oddities next month. Next up is Pat. Are you up, Pat?
I'm up.
There you are. All right. Looks like you've got 6 slides.
This is supposed to be a completed building that was sent to me by New Creation. It got to the border and was totally tore apart, and that's the way I got it. They must have thought there was some strange substance in there. But anyway, I hope you got some of the finished pictures anyway. Yeah, here's the front. Now you know what it is the church. There's the inside at the front. And this is all rosin casting.
Oh.
And then this was a cardboard that was placed on the inside. It was a mess. I didn't even know what it was when I first got it until I looked at the windows of the church, and I said, okay, what did it look like? So I got a hold of Al, and he sent me some photos of this is the exact replica of a church in California where he's at.
Yeah.
Hope you got some more there, Chris. Yep. There you are. There it is put together. There's the front entrance. There's the inside. I completely detailed the interior. I asked Al what it looked like inside, and he said it still had stud walls on the inside. It wasn't finished. So I thought, well, I might as well add stud walls to the inside. I took all of the stained glass and cut it off the existing cardboard and placed it inside of the window where it should be. Then I put pews along each side, and I had some figures that fitted in pretty good. So I sat some figures in there, and some of them were entering the church. And there's some greeters at the front of the church, or the back of the church, you might say, the entrance. And then I put the pulpit on the one side and the some statues on either side. They were all in that mess that came in a bag. I had no idea how it went together, but I thought, well, I'll give it a tackle. So I did. So I added lights. I added the interior. I actually added some candle posts here on each side of the altar, and then pews on each side for the altar boys. I don't know if you got any more pictures or not.
Yep. Yeah, there's a few more.
There it is. There's the finished product. I put a bell on the steeple.
Yep.
Yeah, it was quite a challenge because there was no idea what it looked like. I had no plans, no nothing. Al sent me some pictures, and that's what I went by.
I remember you guys talking about that a few months ago.
Yeah, it was. It was a challenge.
Well, you did a nice job. It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yep, looks very nice. I think there's a little bit, few more. Yep, this is the
Yeah,
last
the
one.
side picture, yeah. I actually weathered it too, and when it first had white corners on it, I took them off and beveled the corners and put it all back together again. Actually, it changed the perspective of the length of the church. And the roof I weathered a little bit. I weathered under the windows. I scraped the windows a little bit so they look like they were as old as it was supposed to be. I guess that church is quite old, and it's been there quite some time. And they're still using it, by the way.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for sharing, Pat. Are there any questions for Pat?
Pat, it's
Great
not a
job,
question, but it doesn't just happen crossing the border. A guy I know ran a company called Medford Trains out of Florida. He would always bring his kits up to the Timonium show in Maryland to sell, and he would ship up his built demonstration models. He had built a roundhouse kit of the Hagerstown Roundhouse, and when it got to the Baltimore post office, it was smashed completely flat, completely unusable.
Huh? That's awful.
Yeah.
You know, like they actually tried to wrap it up again and put it in plastic bags, all the pieces they found. And it was full of popcorn when I got it. So when I took and opened the box, the popcorn started falling out and all these pieces started coming out.
Oh
And
my God.
what is this?
Must have
Poor
been
Al.
must have been heart struck.
Wow, it was
Oh.
terrible anyway. We got her back together anyway.
Yeah, cool. Alrighty. Any more questions for Pat? All right. Well, thanks for sharing, Pat, and nice job on that.
Thank you.
And then it looks like last for the night we have Gary Shergold. You up, Gary?
I'm here.
Alrighty. Looks like you've got 3 slides tonight.
Yeah, well, thanks. This is a HO scale, ITLA scale models, 2-story brick utility building. And when the building came, it's like the 4 walls are like a biscuit that fits together. And when I had followed the instructions in the kit, which was to sand the ends of the walls prior to fitting, I fitted them together and they just did not look proper. So what I'd done, I'd taken some strip wood, and on each of the corners, they ran strip wood down to hide that connecting joint. Trimmed out the roof area and made it look like it was all done in the outside bracing, everything was all done in concrete. Did some initial basic painting on the brick, and then with pastels, went over it with different colors, little red, orange, and then started to blend everything in together. The little walkway that goes up is highly detailed. It's supposed to represent a metal stairway, and the treads are fantastic. Like you can see right through them. Same with the ladder on the back. It's highly detailed, put it on. And as you can see right next to the chimney on the roof is the vent for the plumbing inside. And also on the front of the building, I put a electrical junction box, which goes up to the top, and then wires would run from there over to a telephone pole. Signs on the front doors, and the bottom part would house some type of electrical controlling system for the railroad. And I believe there's another set of slides.
Yeah, there should be this one, and then I think one more set after it.
Yeah, this shows the front again with the other wall showing. Added the windows, and I put a angle block on the building so that when you look through the windows, you don't see right through. Um, Same with the signs were added, and I have since added to the front a CN sign, which is basically a little lower in that middle large section on the front of the building. Added a little bench on the one side with a newspaper sitting there, and underneath the upper stairway, put in a trash can, a little broom. Someone threw a newspaper on the ground, and there's a shovel there to clean up the mess that has been left behind. Added a piece of plastic strut, or a piece of plastic on the bottom, and then scribed in the walkway, sidewalk, and then attempted to show a couple of cracks. I'm not too happy with the weathering on the sidewalk, so I think what I'm going to do is, once it's placed, go over it with a dark wash and just make it a little more dirtier what it is. The railing and stairwell going up, it was painted a metallic color, and then weathered with a weathering wash to give it that slightly rusted look. But it's a nice little kit.
Yeah, the brick came out really nice.
Yeah.
Well, your details really set it off, Gary.
Yeah, I think there's one more. Yep, here we go.
Yeah, that just is another shot, three-quarter shot of the backside, showing the ladder system going up. And it was done the same as the stairwell, painted that metallic color, and then given a wash of light wash of rust. So you just get that little brownish tint here and there. The smokestack, or the chimney, it's kind of nice when the kit came, that little piece on the top actually pulled out of the concrete cap. And then what you did is glued it back in, and then it was painted a little bit of an orangey color, and then weathered with some black chalks. The roof itself was done with that sewing material. I made it into instead of a sand top roof, I made it into a tar paper roof. And it was distressed with different pastels, just to give a little bit of old used look and texturing.
Whose kit was it, Gary?
It's a ITLA scale models.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah, you had them on the show here about sometime last year.
Yep, they did some nice.
Yeah, he'll be on next month. He sent me a bunch of oddities that are really he really took the spirit of what the oddity show is about. So
yeah, very good.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Gary.
Yeah, it was a fun build.
Yeah, it looks like one of those things that's like you could either put it together and just kind of go ho hum, or you could go whole hog with it and really have a good time with it.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it.
Yep.
Yeah. Are there any questions for Gary?
Gary, did you say you put a CN sign on the front for Canadian National?
Yes.
So wouldn't that shovel be for shoveling snow?
Yes. And right
Okay.
now it would come in handy.
Oh, I couldn't resist.
No problem.
All righty. Any more questions for Gary?
Nice job, Gary.
Yeah, very nice. Well, thanks, Gary. I know I've seen some of your oddities before, and hopefully you can you got some good stuff in mind for next month.
I got a
with
good
that-
one. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Gary. And all right, that concludes our, well, actually that portion. You know what? I forgot one thing. Talk about where'd it go? Bring us all the way back down to here. All right, next month, like I've been talking about all show, the next month is going to be a challenge. The February challenge is oddities. Show us the whatever weird things you've got: aliens, UFO dealerships, steampunk jackalopes, non-prototypical trains, depressed center flat cars, whatever you can fit into that mix. That'll be February 21st. And please have your photos to me by, I believe it's the 19th, if you could. That would be greatly appreciated. Email your photos to me at railrunner130@hotmail.com. And if you have not participated previously, please send us a photo of yourself so that we can include that in your intro slide. And that's it. So I will turn it back over to you, Jim.
Well, Chris, I think you did a beautiful job, and I'm so happy that so many modelers wanted to participate in this tonight.
I think last week we started out with 3, and I was going to throw in the presentation I have about the snow diorama, but since then we had a ton of people step up, so I was like, well, I'll push that off for another time. So we'll get to it.
Yeah, you'll get to it. This is not the only snow day in the world. Thanks so much, Chris. We really appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Well, that is our show for this evening. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. We have the caboose coming up, and Phil or Pat, if you can run the caboose, and then that is the last part of our show.
A scenic train ride across Michigan. No better way to capture the charm of our state. In the 1950s.
We started building in 2007, and we're still building.
This model railroad is more than just a hobby for Brooke and Jay Coleman.
It's a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it.
It's a passion project devoted to their past.
What we really wanted to do is capture the family history of Brooke's family and my family. And that meant going back and retrieving information, because a lot of it was gone. And we wanted to do it in the early 1950s era, which was a good day for railroading.
What started as an intriguing challenge during retirement for this duo
Model railroading fit the bill, loved it when I was a kid.
has now grown into a locomotive landscape at their home.
He said, you know, you could build some family houses. And I thought, well, that sounds really interesting. And it just sort of blossomed from there. And I got really hooked, and now it's kind of dangerous how much I enjoy it.
Each building and piece of landscape.
This is a ground foam, and this is what we use for like grass and bushes.
A giant puzzle created by hand.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I certainly hope that you enjoyed the show, but most importantly, we hope you learned something. That's what it's all about. Until next Wednesday, happy modeling.
Wow.